Have you ever done this? You spend an entire weekend just buried in books, highlighting everything, and then come Monday, it feels like you've retained almost nothing. It is one of the most frustrating feelings for any student, right? You put in all those hours, but the results just don't show up. Okay, so in this explainer, we're going to dive into exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how to fix it for good. So yeah, this is the big question, isn't it? It's something that just drives students crazy, especially around exam time. You know you're working hard, but it honestly feels like you're just spinning your wheels. Well, here's the thing. The problem probably isn't your work ethic. It's almost certainly your method. And look, this data right here tells the whole story. Research shows that when you use active learning techniques, we're going to talk a lot about active recall, you retain about 57% of the material. Now compare that to just passively reading or highlighting. Whoa, retention just plummets down to 29%. That's nearly double the effectiveness. This one chart is the key to understanding why so many study sessions feel so pointless. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to uncover something called the illusion of knowing, so we can see why our old habits fail us. Then, we're going to unlock your brain's hidden superpower. After that, I'll walk you through a super practical 5-day study blueprint and give you an entire active recall toolkit you can start using today. And it's all going to lead us to that final goal, finally studying smarter, not harder.
Okay, let's kick things off by tackling the main villain of our story, the illusion of knowing. This is all about why those comfortable, go-to study techniques you've been using for years might actually be the very things holding you back. Highlighting, rereading the same chapter over and over, making summaries without actually trying to remember the info from your head, these are the classics, the passive methods. And look, they feel productive, don't they? Your pages are all colorful, you've gone over the material. But here's the trap. They only create a feeling of familiarity, not real solid memory. It's a false sense of accomplishment that just crumbles the second you're under pressure in an exam. And this right here perfectly illustrates the core difference. On one side, you've got passive recognition. You see a term on the page and you think, yep, I know this, I've seen it before. But on the other side, you have active recall. That's when you can close the book, look away, and say, I can explain this. See the difference? One is just being familiar, the other is genuine understanding. And guess what? Exams don't test if you recognize something, they test if you can recall it. And this whole phenomenon actually has a name. It's called the illusion of knowing. It's a cognitive bias that literally tricks our brains into believing we're way more prepared than we actually are. It's the reason you can walk into a test feeling totally confident and then walk out feeling completely blindsided. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. Because there's a hero in this story, too. Your brain's hidden superpower, active recall. This is the absolute key to unlocking lasting, durable memory.
I absolutely love this analogy. Think about it. Passive reading is like watching someone else lift weights at the gym. Sure, you see it happening, but your own muscles aren't getting any stronger. Active recall is when your brain has to do the heavy lifting. Every single time you struggle to pull a piece of information from your memory, you are strengthening those neural connections, making that memory stronger and way easier to find next time.
And the results of making this switch? They're not small. Switching to active learning strategies can improve your test scores by up to 20%. I mean, that's the difference between a B and an A. That can be the difference between passing and failing a class. This isn't just some minor tweak, it is a total game changer.
Okay, so we get the why now. So let's get into the how with a real structured plan. This is the 5-day study blueprint. It's a strategic plan to put all this active recall stuff into practice without feeling completely overwhelmed.
So the big idea here is that our brains are just not designed for cramming. It's a scientific fact. We learn so much more effectively when we study in shorter, focused sessions that are spread out over several days. Seriously, 1 hour a day for 5 days is way better than a single miserable 5-hour cram session the night before. And this table just lays it all out beautifully. Notice the pattern here. Each day you spend some time learning new material, sure, but you also dedicate a growing amount of time to actively reviewing what you learned on the previous days. The time you spend on new stuff goes down, while review time goes up, all leading to that final self-test on day 5. This systematically builds your knowledge and then locks it in. Now, the science that makes this plan work is called spaced repetition. It's pretty simple, really. You test yourself on information at intervals that get longer and longer over time. This whole process actively fights against your brain's natural tendency to forget things, basically forcing that information into your long-term memory. All right, now for the fun part. Let's get you equipped with the specific tools you'll need to make all this happen. Think of this as your active recall toolkit, and it's full of practical techniques you can literally start using the minute this is over.
First up is the blurting method. It sounds a little silly, but it is incredibly powerful. After you study a topic, just close your book, grab a blank piece of paper, and blurt out everything you can possibly remember. This isn't about being neat or organized. It's about forcing your brain to rebuild that knowledge from scratch. Then you compare your blurt page to your actual notes, and you will see exactly what you know, and even more importantly, what you don't. Next up is the Feynman technique, which is named after a brilliant physicist. The whole goal is to explain a concept in the simplest terms you possibly can. You know, like you're trying to explain it to a kid. If you find yourself using a bunch of jargon or getting stuck and confused, well, that's a huge red flag that you don't really understand it deeply enough. So you go back, fill in those gaps, and try explaining it again. True mastery is being able to explain something complex with total simplicity.
And the toolkit doesn't stop there, of course. You can transform your study process by just turning the statements in your notes into questions to test yourself with later. Or you could build your own practice tests. And of course, there's always the classic, flashcards. They're especially powerful when you use apps like Anki or Quizlet, which have that spaced repetition technology built right in. Now, to manage your time and your focus during these active recall sessions, the Pomodoro technique is fantastic. You just work in these really focused 25-minute sprints, and then you take a short 5-minute break. This cycle keeps your mind fresh, it helps you avoid burnout, and it makes tackling really challenging stuff so much more manageable.
You know, you can even get ahead of the game and optimize for active recall right from the very beginning when you're taking notes in class. A system like the Cornell method basically forces you to structure your page with main notes, key questions, and a summary section. This format is awesome because it's like you're building a self-testing study guide as you learn, which makes reviewing later incredibly efficient.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. This whole thing isn't just about learning a few new study tricks. It's about a fundamental shift in how you approach learning altogether. It's about finally studying smarter, not just harder, so you can reclaim your time and, seriously, reduce your stress.
And what's the actual payoff? Well, it's huge. We're talking better grades because you're actually learning and retaining the information, more free time because you're getting better results in fewer hours, and maybe most importantly, way less stress and no more burnout. Imagine walking into your exams feeling genuinely prepared, not just kind of familiar with the material. That's the goal. I really want to leave you with this final thought because it's a crucial mindset shift. If your studying feels easy and comfortable, you're probably doing it wrong. That little bit of struggle, that mental effort of pulling information out of your memory, that is the feeling of real learning happening. So you've got to learn to embrace that challenge. So there you have it. You now have a complete science-backed system to learn way more effectively in way less time. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with all those hours you're about to get back?